Members present are Mark McKeever, Kevin Myers, Dan Wirebaugh, Bruce Truca, Monica Stack, Doug Vogt, myself, and Andrew Dock. Meeting is called to order by myself, Doug Vogt, at 6 o'clock p.m. Is there any public participation? Looks like we have Police Chief Kepke on tonight.
We don't do that on.
I don't come to committee meetings very much.
Geez, to say, geez, Chief, now you make me feel real bad. I really messed this one up this time.
Well, I do have a little bit of news, and we're on Facebook Live.
I figured.
And you have 3 viewers right now.
All right.
Let me get on.
At least we're not scaring a lot of people that way.
So can I go ahead and?
Yes, please
Absolutely,
do.
please do.
We need your name and address.
Madam President, Chief David Kepke with the Bucyrus Police Department, and thanks for asking me to share a little news with you today. Citizens for a Safer Bucyrus was our Facebook page back about 4 years ago when we had the levy campaign, and that ended up being the page for our neighborhood watch captains, our neighborhood watch groups to share information and public posting on Facebook. Now it's been rebranded Bucyrus Neighborhood News Network, and if any of you in council are part of Facebook, check out Bucyrus Neighborhood News Network. It has a direct link to the Bucyrus, Ohio website, cityofbucyrusoh.us. I go to it every day.
Right.
cityofbucyrusoh.us, the city website with all your links to all your news about parks or different city departments. Police and fire are there, of course. Mr. Wagner has information on there when it comes to city services like park rentals and things like that. So as far as a Facebook presence, Bucyrus Neighborhood News Network will have postings about neighborhood watch meetings, community bulletin board, things of interest. We're on Facebook Live now, so let's revisit the art park when we opened it up. And we did do a live broadcast on Facebook Live that day with the police page. We could use this anytime there's a public gathering. So hopefully it's a useful thing for city council. It'll be an easier way maybe for some council members to know who the neighborhood watch captains are in your area. And maybe that'll help you out. So if you have any questions.
So you say there is a link on the city website page?
There's a link on the Facebook page
Okay.
to go to anything city.
Okay.
And you can find it there, and we can add to it, make it better.
Okay. So now, do we have to see you to get signed up to be able to enter things on that page or not?
Like it, follow it.
Like it and follow it?
And John Rostash developed a new logo for it. It also has a neighborhood watch sign, still there, and you see those around town. And if you want anything posted, let John Rostash know so we post it.
Okay. So he's our contact then, is John Rostash,
Yes.
if you have something that you want to post out there, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Kurt Fankhauser, 1675 South Sandusky, Wavelength Communications. I would be agreeable to the provision of the 5-year extension in the current contract. The current contract is a mutual trade of services, which the law director told me does not require public bid. The city is still using connections from me at 3 city-owned buildings, which this would allow those connections to remain on at no cost to the city. Also, the free Wi-Fi for park patrons would be included as well, with no interruption of service to residents and businesses in the city. If the council determines that it needs to bid the tower space, then they could get the bids out way early, even as soon as this year if they wanted, with stipulation that the terms of those bids wouldn't commence until the expiration of the 5-year extension. If Wavelength wouldn't get the bid at that time, this would allow all parties involved to have plenty of heads-up notice that they need to find alternative arrangements having several years advance notice of expiration of use of the tower, rather than the situation now of having to face loss of services to residents and city-owned buildings themselves. Use of the towers always needs to be a long-term 5+ year agreement because of the large amount of financial investment required to purchase the equipment and planning of getting it up and running. Many tower locations do not pay for themselves in the first year or two because of the payback for the investment in the equipment is over longer periods of time. Some of the equipment on those towers is only a couple years old, as it was recently replaced. I hope that the council sees the value of supporting local businesses that pay property taxes, stormwater runoff taxes, sales taxes, and income taxes. Thank you.
Any other public participation?
Doug Wilson, 220 Home Circle in Bucyrus. Councilman Wireball had asked me if I would come and address a topic which I had discussed with him. The flags for the city of Bucyrus. We have a flag on the square, we have a flag on City Hall, we have a flag on the fire department, we have a flag on the maintenance building, and you have flags in your council chambers. I think there used to be in the mayor's office as well. What I'm asking is that you establish a single line item, a specific item in the budget for flags, United States flags for the city of Bucyrus. The reason I ask for that, I realize that you have budgets for the various things, but I was told specifically by a former mayor. I'll back up on that. At a Legion meeting, we were discussing the fact that the flag had not flown on the square for quite some time. And we knew that at one time they had a problem with the ratchet mechanism in the pole. And so Benny Tyner agreed to go and have a discussion with the mayor and find out if there's anything that they could do to help. And I got a call from Denny, and he said, I want you to call the mayor yourself and give his explanation of why they don't have the flag on the square. And I did that, and the mayor said, Doug, we can't afford to put the flags on the square. And we had a more of a one-sided discussion from me to him on that, and the flag got put back on the square, but I think it's the responsibility of the city to have that there. They have a large 20-foot high and anywhere from 30 to 38-foot flag that flies on special Veterans Days. And that flag had become tattered and torn. And the American Legion Post bought a new one for that. So that does not cost the city anything for that. And I think that you'll be able to get the military service organizations to supply that particular flag whenever it's no longer usable. The larger flag that was the flag that is of a size adequate for that size pole, and the pole is between 70 and 80 foot high. So there's a recommended flag size for different heights of poles. And the large flag had become tattered on the corner, and the fire department took it down, and I took it home and you shortened it. We let it up there just a little bit too long. We had to take about a foot off of it. If we get it whenever it just starts to tatter on the corner, you can shorten it about 6 inches, rehem it, and maybe another 30 days out of it. And maybe even more than that. It gets down where it's looking like it's not the right shape for a flag, but then that has to be disposed of in a proper manner. But you can get a lot of extra use out of them by rehemming them, and I'll do that. The large one is tough, because if you get the one that's 20 foot high, getting it in your Singer sewing machine is a chore. We've got her done. Any questions that you have? I'm asking specifically for a line item for flags for the city of United States flags. Yes.
What size flags should be normally flown on that on a daily basis? Like 8 by 8? 8 by 12 or something to that effect? I mean,
I have a book that shows that, and I'll get that for you, and I'll get that information for you.
and it would look kind of silly to fly a 3 by 5 flag on it
I want
currently.
you each to take a look at those. I don't know what size is up there now. They look a lot smaller when they're at the top of that pole too. Even the 20-foot high and 38-foot long flag, it looks big, but it doesn't look nearly as big as it does when it's down low. Had an interesting thing with that, if you have time. We got a call that the high wind was causing the flagpole to move, and so we decided to take it down, and some policemen went down there with me to do that, and we got it down to the lower part of the pole, and the police officer that was hanging on to the far end of the pole, I looked, and his feet were about as high as my head, and the wind kind of let up enough, long enough for us to get down. He let loose, he says, "We're not taking that pole down today." And we put it back up and then let it take the chances that day, when we were taking the risk. If you, that was humorous, and I had to pass that on to you. Any other questions that you have? I will get you the recommended sizes for that. I think it's probably at least 10, maybe 15 foot high, and then there's an established length for whatever height the flag is. Your flag books will tell you what sizes are recommended for each size pole. That pole, when we ordered it, was the size that would take up to the 20-foot high and 38-foot long. So that's the maximum size you should find on that.
I
Yeah,
think
why don't we take a look at the flag that's up there now?
You know, another option maybe on the square is that we put up another flagpole. And we only use the big flagpole, as you said, 4th of July, the holidays, the other times. If it becomes, if we're getting to a point where it's costing that much money to do it, I know we have turned to the AMVETS, and we've turned to the American Legion, and we've turned to several of the organizations here in town, and when we say we need a new flag, there's never been one of them that's ever said no.
If they can afford to
I
pay
know.
the mayor's wages and they can afford to pay the council's wages, they can afford to fly a flag with that, put a size on there. But that's my opinion, but I understand what you're saying. It's more expensive than it used to be. And I guarantee you, in 10 years from now, it's going to be even more expensive than what it is now. There's a responsibility that you have.
No, Bruce I was just looking back because he was.
Curiosity, what does a flag cost?
The 30-foot long, 20-foot high flag was $400 and some. If you get the 30-foot or the 38-foot, it can run as high as $800 for that flag. Even a 5x8 flag anymore is probably in the $50–$60 price range. It's expensive.
Can I have a follow-on? How long is the life expectancy when you're flying it? I mean, how long do you think? I mean,
Okay, if you get the 45–50 mile an hour gust of wind and it's sustained, one day can pretty well ravel it. Normally between 30 and 60 days. And there again, if we get it, and if you'll help me watch, and if you see it getting tattered on the corner, whenever it's only losing a couple of inches, we can just rehem that flag and get more service out of it faster. Like I said, this last time we had about a foot that we had to take off on it. It's ready to go back up.
I just kind of Googled it to find out a 60 to 65 foot pole can require a 10 by 15 or 10 by 19 is the minimum requirement.
Can you get a price on that?
Well, I can look. I haven't got a price on it, but
If you go between 70 and 80 foot on the pole,
it's 10 by 19 to 12 by 18 is it 70 to 80, and a 90 to 100 is 20 by 38 or 30 to 50. So, and that was just a quick reference, I just.
No, Doug, it's your committee, you're running that.
Okay, yeah, I did, after talking with Mr. Wilson, I researched it and just pulled it up online, and it's, of course, the more you buy, the less they are. So $190 a piece, you can get the 12 by 18 US flag, and that is American made, so the Chinese ones were a little cheaper, but.
Cheaper is a good word, less
And,
expensive.
yeah, the sizes that Mr. McKeever quoted were correct too, so. So I guess that's just something we need to talk about at some point. So I asked Mr.
Sometime I'll get the figure on what we spend for the flags for the cemeteries throughout the county. They don't cost that much for a flag, but we put a lot of flags on. We've got a lot of service members laying the cemeteries across the country. So. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I will check also as well, because I know our Kiwanis Club, we do the flags, the Ohio and the American flags up and down the street for the 4th of July celebration. I'll try and find out how much those flags cost us as well. I know they're, I believe they're all 3 by 5. So.
Anybody else for public participation? All right, moving on. Order of committee business. First up, we have the Economic Development Committee, and we will call that to order at 6:17 p.m. All right, first order of business is Board of Zoning Appeals appointment. And I will open the floor to nominations for Board of Zoning Appeals.
I recommend, the one I recommended
All right.
last time.
All right.
Mr. Stucker.
I have also received that Catherine Volk would also like to be a nominated candidate, and Tom Rarick. I believe Mr. Rarick has worked in the community for a great number of years as well, worked out at the ODOT Transportation, and also owns the Daily Scoop Uptown. So, and then Catherine Volk, I know she works at First Federal. She's a younger lady that has shown a lot of interest. She has been talking with Mr. Rostash over at the engineer's office and asking lots of questions and showing lots of interest that she would like to be a lot more community involved and maybe get into doing this as well. Are there any other nominations that we have for Board of Zoning Appeals? All right, so it looks like we have Mr. Stucker, Mr. Rarick, and Ms. Volk. I will open the floor to votes for Mr. Stucker.
Can I interrupt for a second? This is an important committee, sorry to interrupt you, but wouldn't it be more prudent to have those 3 folks come in and maybe an interview? I'm just throwing that out there, so you don't have to vote tonight and then, because maybe not everybody knows all 3 of them. So maybe, ask some questions, and that way you're not,
I know 2, I don't know that, I don't know.
You don't know Catherine? Okay. I'm open to that. Does that sound good to you, Dan?
Yeah.
Monica? Okay. All right. We will table, I guess, should we see if we can have them report to our next council meeting?
We'll have the clerk get a hold of them and
Okay.
see when they're available, if they're all available at the same time or close to the same time.
Okay. All right. All right, we have our 3 nominations then. It'd be Mr. Bill Stucker, Mr. Tom Rarick, and Ms. Catherine Volt, and we will see if we can get them to appear at our next council meeting so we can ask some questions and do a little bit of interviewing. So, moving on to the next order of business, we have the Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program. I have a letter here from the Ohio Regional Development Corporation dated February 6, 2018, to Jeff Reeser, Mayor in the city of Bucyrus, 500 South Sandusky Avenue, Bucyrus, Ohio, 44820. Letter reads, Dear Mayor Reeser, I am the new grants director at Ohio Regional Development Corporation. As you are aware, it is time to apply for the PY 2018 CHIP program. ORDC was advised today that we will be retained by Crawford County to apply for and administer the program for them. As part of this process, a partnership agreement will need to be entered into between Crawford County and the cities of Gallion and Bucyrus. I have enclosed herewith a resolution authorizing Bucyrus to enter into a partnership agreement with Gallion and Crawford County, as well as the partnership agreement itself. Please review the same and have your law director do the same. If they meet with your approval, would you please present them to City Council so that they may be placed on the agenda? Dale or myself would be happy to attend the meeting and answer any questions council may have. Thank you again, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Dale Hartle or myself at our Coshocton office, 740-622-0529. Sincerely, Scott Hillis, Grants Director. And in your packet, you'll have a sample resolution for the CHIP program. We do need to request some legislation to get this put into place.
Correct. It was just a few years ago that we used to all receive separate CHIP grants. The county would receive one, Gallion would receive one, Bucyrus would receive one, but they changed the process down in Columbus. Now the recommended way, well, the way it happens now is that the county gets the grant, and then the city and Bucyrus and Gallion then agree to enter into a group with the county in order to distribute those funds.
And that is all we have on order for economic
Now
development.
we need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. We need a motion to enact the legislation.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, and that is it for economic development. So I will call the meeting to order, or call the meeting over at 6:22 p.m.
Oh, it will start at 6:22 for platting. First order of business is the ODOT bridge repair.
You have a letter here too.
Yes, I do. Letter is from the Ohio Department of Transportation, addressed to Mayor Reeser. Dear Mayor Reeser, enclosed are 2 copies of preliminary legislation to be enacted by City Council for the referenced project. Please make arrangements to have the legislation presented to the City Council for consideration, and when enacted, return 2 original signature copies to this office by February 26, 2018. The original copy will be returned to the city later with a signature of the Director of DOT affixed. The title of the contractual officer should be affixed on page 2, and that person should sign as a contractual officer on page 3. If the city does not have an official seal, please attach a copy of a statement to that effect to the return transmittal. If you have any questions pertaining to the legislation, call me at 419-207-7173. Respectfully, Jennifer, and I'm not going to say it right.
Just try.
Thibault, Program Administrator, Direct District 3, ODOT P&E, 906 North Clark Avenue, Ashland, Ohio, 44805. So,
This is for a 2023 project.
at no cost to the city.
Correct.
Never too early.
So, is there any questions, comments, concerns? If not,
I just was going to ask, I assume that the administration's looked this over and has no issues with it, meets everything that we need to do, so, okay.
okay. Yes.
So what are they actually repairing, or what are they fixing, or what are they doing?
This is the, on that first page, it states it's to perform bridge repairs on US Route 30 at SLM 08.42 L&R over Norfolk Southern Railroad in the city of Bucyrus. It's the bridge overpass. I believe over there,
It's
it's,
out off Plymouth Street.
Yeah.
The
that one out on Plymouth.
Yeah,
off Plymouth Street
it's on
there.
it's on 20, the 30 bypass that would intersect it.
The one between 98 and Route 4, the bridge overpass there. Yeah.
Right, that's the one.
Farm store?
Yeah.
Yeah, as you go across the top, parts of the 30 bypass are in the city, parts are not in the city, and then they're back in the city. So it's,
This
yep.
portion's in the city.
Yep.
So,
So you need a motion for legislation.
that's,
I so move to make a motion to allow ODOT to do bridge repair.
okay, do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Okay, moving on to the next one. I do believe I might need Mr. Branstetter to talk about this one. This is about the railroad track repair on Plymouth Street. And it looks like an estimated cost of, I'm not sure, I'll let you explain it.
Prior to the meeting, I'd like a packet on your workplace. I guess not your workplace, but when you are here for the meeting. And it's in the order of things that we'll come to. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, that doesn't even,
That doesn't work? No. I'll get it out of my way. I want to be a rock star. You got the rail crossing on Plymouth Street. It's like a better word, I'll say it's rough. And you have some other rough ones. But we had an opportunity to come in most of the rail crossings. You'll see this like on Sandusky, the street's parallel going north. The sidewalk stops short at the railroad right of way. But working with this railroad, it's a small local. They can rebuild the track where it's one of the nicer, much better, smoother ones. We can bring all the new improvements right up to the rail, including the concrete walk. And we're gonna coordinate it with them so that we don't have to bore under the railroad tracks for the new storm sewer. A real rough sketch is on the back side of this photograph. And it's hard to see, but the dark gray, and be on the back of the wall in the photograph. The dark gray is the railroad crossing across and perpendicular to Plymouth. The light gray, our rendition of concrete goes right up to it. So that makes it smoother, and you can see one of the lines parallel to the road is a new storm line. If we didn't do this at the same time, we'd have to bore under that line, which could be $300 a foot. So we can open cut this and not bore, and you're gonna get a much smoother, better system that's safer for pedestrians and traffic. I'm sorry, Bruce, I didn't see that.
Well, I'll let you go on and.
Anyway, and the photograph on the front is something we pulled off the internet, gives you an idea how it's gonna look. The only thing on that one, the sidewalk is asphalt coming up to the edge of the rubber railing, or the rubber crossing. Here it's gonna be concrete. So, we kind of said there's the option, and you can see the points that I made. I just mentioned them to get a better appearance. It's more durable. It's safer for pedestrian traffic. We don't have to jack and bore the storm sewer underneath it. And it's just going to be, the other thing is just not do anything or the storm sewer under it and see if they ever come in and repair this thing in the future. So that is the recommendation to move forward with it. Yes, it's a lot of money, but they did bid out the work. It's not what the railroad's charging you. They've received 5 or 6 bids, And so that's a good thing. It's sometimes railroads and utilities are charging what they think their cost is, but they show us a bit different. So I'll answer questions. Yeah.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, all excited and happy that you're doing this. And I've been pursuing, I think it's in economic development, it's been in service committee forever. Bucyrus Tire out there on Route 98, for many, many years, they've been looking for a sewer, and we were a little late on having them become a part of that pump line coming out of the new water filtration plant. Because here, Bucyrus Tire's been, they've been wanting to be a part of our system for so long that this sounds like a fine opportunity to bring that area on board out there on Plymouth Street east of the railroad tracks.
Company with where the tire company is?
Yeah, this Bucyrus Tire that has been pursuing this for,
Is it
it's on the north side of the road, on the east side of the tracks.
Versus on the last set of tracks. These are the tracks right in town.
These are
Right by the
Oh,
drive.
they're not out by the.
That's not the Norfolk line.
That's not the Norfolk one.
Okay.
But let me, can I address Bruce? We have been talking to him about hooking up to the sewer, and he's gonna need a pit and a pump, and so we have been in communication with him about that.
Okay, well, that's great, because,
Yeah.
he wants in here so bad that,
And we've talked to him a couple times, and I'll have to check with Jeff Dunn again and see where we're at, but we have been talking to him again about it.
technically you can pump from, they would have to connect with a pump in order to meet the pressure of the force main. You can't do regular gravity tap, but it's possible to do that.
okay, I had the wrong railroad tracks.
That's all right.
But I'm still happy that we were able to discuss it, because,
Good.
that'd be a wonderful
Yes,
thing.
sir.
Bruce, have you done any figures of what the cost is gonna be to us if we take this project on versus what the cost would be if we're gonna bore under it? So in essence, are we saving anything, or is it all set?
The bore is less than the 90,000. I would say it's about half, but you're still getting more value.
So in essence, about half of the project, we would be, have to come up with in excess if we choose to do this versus,
Correct.
okay.
You'd be paying for it anyway.
But this overall project is putting all new sidewalks in on Plymouth Street on both sides, and this will butt right up to the new.
Kevin, in perspective, you're
80-20.
talking about an over $3 million project.
Right.
So it's a lot of money. It's been planned for, it's been talked about, but we were just asking for formal approval.
So the 93,000 is for just this railroad crossing.
Yes.
The rest of the project's already been,
Correct. Right, I'm just clarifying.
And the railroad put it out to bid.
Yeah, the bids varied anywhere from 72,000 for the construction or other costs, up to 122,000. So, they had a 72,000, 81,000, 91, 94, so they're taking the lowest bid. Like I say, some utilities just basically come up with numbers that I question at times, but this one seems, they prepare detailed plans and specific prices.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
and the auditor had also included in the packet here that we may want to add our regular 10% that we add for, in case there's an overage for it.
Correct.
And for our particular not to exceed number, so it's going to come out, what, about 102,000? But we do need legislation to do this.
Correct. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
So, let me see if I got this right. So for 93,000, we're gonna fix the railroad's crossing, is that what you're saying?
And in the process of doing that, you will put the line underneath it.
Right, I mean, Simplified form, yeah. But, I mean,
Just ask-
you're able to continue the sidewalk through it and the asphalt paving. And frankly, I know it's a different railroad, but if you look on Sandusky, I know at Sandusky how that, you know, how rough it is from right-of-way line of railroad to right-of-way line of railroad. So you spend a whole bunch of money, but then in the middle of the project, you've got a 100-foot swath that is still deal concrete, still deal asphalt, still deal grade, that kind of thing. It's safer.
Is the railroad, I mean, is the railroad doing anything? The owner of the railroad contributing anything to this project, or?
They're providing their time and effort is about the best I can judge that. Yeah.
So you're telling me that Norfolk and Southern owns that rail line then right there at Plymouth Street? Where does it become property of Stone Quarry?
Is that owned by Norfolk?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, if you look at the drawing on the backside, it's CF&E, and I forget what that stands for.
I mean, that's a great thing. I think it's wonderful. I mean, it needs to be done, yes, I fully agree. I just was asking a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fully in.
Yeah, you know, for the city your size, because of your rail history in the industry here, you got a lot of smaller private lines. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's, you get the industry, but you gotta deal with railroads.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
I'm just sitting here figuring this up in my head. We really have two options. One is we pay to fix it. The other is we wait for the railroad, but in the meantime, we're gonna have to pay to bore under it, which could potentially make it even a rougher crossing.
Yeah, it won't be.
Won't make it any better, though.
That's for darn sure.
Okay.
And we're putting catch basins on both sides, so we gotta kind of drop the grade to make everything deep. So, yeah, you know, will it be worse than what we have now? It won't be better if we just bore under. Will it be worse than it is now? Somebody could make that argument because you have some catch basins there that you don't have now, that kind of thing.
Is this actually gonna change the grade?
It's gonna make it a much smoother transition. as you
It'll
drive.
raise it some?
Yeah, I mean, the asphalt and the crossing's gonna be smoother. The rails are pretty much gonna stay where they are, but we can bring the grade down to meet them. We can work within that railroad right away. I've had a couple, you know, you just can't, otherwise you just don't have it.
You have to stay so many feet away if you don't.
Correct.
That's good, okay. All right. With this, I need a motion to approve this or table this, or we can table it or make a motion and add the 10%.
I move that we go ahead and approve it, and it'll be a wonderful addition to all the citizens that travel Plymouth Street.
Is that with the 10% too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passed. Okay.
This will also go through finance committee too here in just a minute.
And we go on to the next thing of mill-and-pave. And on that, what he gave you here, it's also here.
The second item in your packet is a cost estimate summary of the proposed mill-and-pave streets for this year. East Mansfield, that section from Highland to Whetstone is probably the last section that we just haven't done. And then East Charles, Lincoln Jones. We have East Walnut, Oakwood, Southern. Then we'll do sections of Whetstone, and then Southeast Street, or Oakwood to Southern. No, that estimate is at $552,000. We were asked to take a look at Sandusky Avenue from Charles to Perry and the town square, just to come in and crack seal and restripe, put down new pavement markings, the arrows, turn lane stuff, stop bars. That would be what we call thermoplastic, so it's a little brighter when the weather's bad, and it lasts much longer, it costs more. That's a rough estimate of 70. Brings the total to 622. I know we have budgeted, I understand, 60.
We have budgeted
Sorry,
600.
600,000. Our thoughts would be bid streets 1 through 6 as part of the base bid, and then bid the crack sealing and also the pavement markings as an alternate. If you can afford it, great, we'll do it. If you can't, we'll figure out what we can do. We've done that in the past. The thought on this is to get the bids out pretty quickly, try and have everything done prior to the Bratwurst Festival. Just be done, because you're gonna have so many other things going on in town. That's one reason why we kind of selected these streets too. You got a lot of streets with priorities, and these are pretty easy to get in, mill-and-pave, get them done, and not do total street reconstruction like we have to do in some areas, because we're gonna have so much other work going on.
And number 3 should be South Walnut.
Oh, yes, thank you.
East Walnut, yeah. Bruce, do you have a timeline of when they might start Plymouth Street?
If they start, I'd say it's gonna be the 1st of April, something like that. We'll know more, the bids are gonna be open here in the next couple of weeks.
I think the bids went out April the 25th, didn't they? They opened for, asked for bids.
I think they opened before that.
Oh, was it? Oh, they got it earlier then.
Yeah,
In January, did I say April? I meant January the 25th.
yeah, it's gonna be later than that. And ODOT is bidding that project, so I don't have the exact date. I'll be in district.
Do you have a breakout of the 2 items in number 7?
I want to say the pavement marking was about 45,000. I'm hoping that 2 years. I got the estimate in the office. I want to say it's in that range.
Okay.
I can get you that. I can get it to Jeff tomorrow.
And I guess my follow-up to that is on the town square, what level of, how critical is that need at the moment?
Well, I think it was, we are starting to get some cracks, and we're just trying to slow it down, basically. If we keep letting them go, they're gonna get worse, and it could end up costing us paving rather than crack sealing for now. It was just a way to probably just correct a few problems we got, and then restripe the downtown.
It's a preventive maintenance thing. When you're going to see the darker black line where all the cracks are, I do have some communities complain about it, but you want to seal the cracks to extend life of pavement. Biggest problem you've got is the water getting into the subgrade through the cracks. And this winter is especially tough because of such a variation in temperatures. What looked like a pretty good street going into the fall may look like a pretty bad street coming out of this winter this year. And that goes with all these streets. These estimates are kind of based upon what we've looked at. We'll give them a closer look for the quantities after the weather changes that we start to see. I'm a big believer in crack sealing and extend the life of the pavement. You don't want to wait till it gets too bad, but if it's in that 7-8 year time frame, that's a pretty good thing to do.
Thank you.
I was just gonna address Andy's comment. The square's in rough shape. I mean, it's crack seal, I mean, my idea would be if we could chip and repaint it, and the bicentennial's coming up, 2021, hopefully maybe either in 2020 or 2021, then repave the entire square, because it's pretty rough right now. So it definitely needs something. If we get to last about 2 or 3 more years, and repave it so it looks real nice for bicentennials.
And it's gonna be an economic decision, I think, once prices come in with condition. If it's that bad where you might pave it, so you might wanna hold on to the pavement markings because they are so expensive. We'll just have, we'll think it through once we get the bid.
Yes, Bruce?
Is there a way that, will there be any money leeway in the budget to maybe, I know I had brought it up in the past about having the cracks sealed on East Mansfield Street from like Whetstone out to Walmart, being that it's such a heavily traveled street. And I just was wanting to know if we could maybe fill some of them cracks that are,
Are there been some cracks that have developed on it?
yeah.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah.
Gonna
So
run-
I just was wanting that maybe we could do, at least maybe you would look at it, or you would look at it.
Okay, we'll look at it.
Yeah, we can put it in.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Do we also have a list of, in the past, what we've done is if everything comes in under what we projected as an engineer's budget, we have a list of other streets that we may be able to get in and do. Do you have you started that list yet or not?
Well, the other list that we had was more concrete streets, and it's just so costly to remove the concrete and then put a base down, put blacktop, that those streets are gonna have to wait to be in the mill-and-pave for next year. We didn't do any additional streets this year, just with everything else we got going on in town. We kind of want to get in and get out of the way. I took enough phone calls last year, sorry.
Yeah, and the question comes up, the rest of Southern will be paved to the east under the sewer contract. That's already in that contract. And,
It's in the southern project.
yeah, so that needs to be paved.
Any other questions? Okay. We believe I need to ask for legislation to approve, go for bid, I believe. So I'm asking for a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? Otherwise,
This is go for bid and authorize payment, and authorize them to select all of that.
correct. Any other, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign, passed. No other items need to be brought up for plating. I will adjourn at 6:48.
Okay, I will call the finance committee to order at 6:48 p.m. First thing is the railroad track repair at Plymouth Street. Talked about in planning meeting, so, we need legislation for, the consideration of, the $93,000 plus 10%, correct?
Yes.
For the railroad track repair at Plymouth Street. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Opposed?
Oh, those
Opposed.
opposed, sorry. Motion passed. Okay, moving on to the 2018 mill-and-pave. That was just talked about in budding also. Need legislation for this as well. The total, 622,000. Yes, Jeff?
Well, we only budgeted 600, so I wouldn't go above the 600. Because we're only gonna look at that alternate for uptown if the bid comes in below for us to afford to do that. Because our budget is right at 600,000 that we passed. So I wouldn't do the 622.
So the prices listed here automatically include the 6%, the additional 6%?
Yes.
Said bid prices plus.
Yeah, he did that one.
that was my assumption as to how we got to the estimate,
Okay,
just for the, kind of for the record.
Based off the prices last year, he upped it 6%.
okay.
But I think with 600,000 budgeted, I believe that's what the intent was.
That's what you'll put in the legislation, 600,000,
Not to
Not to
exceed.
exceed.
not to exceed.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve the proposed 2018 paving program not to exceed $600,000.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on, the Whetstone East Mansfield Drain Project. Bruce?
The last thing in your packet, if you flip to the backside where the map is, admittedly it could be a little clearer, but what we're trying to do is the existing sewer coming up to Mansfield and into the river gets flooded, especially some of the areas immediately south of the railroad tracks, which are shown at the bottom of the sketch. So what we're trying to do is drain the area in the southeast corner and run a storm sewer line under Mansfield parallel to the existing, so we can take that acreage, which is pretty much everything that's shown on the drawing, take that acreage out of the current pipe, and then take it directly to the river, so that would be this whole square at the southeast corner. And then that'll give us more capacity to drain some of the water on the south side of the railroad tracks into it. And part in with the retention basin that we put in down at the fairgrounds, holding the Hunter storm releasing it at a much, much lower rate. We're trying to take as much stress off of that line as we can. It's not gonna solve everybody and all problems, but we're at least reducing the frequency and the quantity of overflow issues. Yes, Mark?
Are you referring to the red dotted lines, are the lines that you're gonna tie to that storm?
Well, actually, some of them are draining here, yeah. So the solid red is all we're gonna do, that short stretch of solid.
Right, but it's tying those dotted ones in.
That's correct. There's a big storm sewer that comes down, a 30-inch sewer connects into the existing 48 on Whetstone, and then we're gonna take that 36. It's in the parking lot. I apologize, it's not the best sketch. So there's a sewer that comes down through here.
Correct.
And we're gonna disconnect it from that 48-inch and run it so parallel culvert. So that would be, this pipe comes now, it ties in right here.
You're gonna disconnect?
We're gonna disconnect it there and run it across on
Oh,
this area.
okay, all right.
I'm gonna need you to show.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta look over
I'm
your shoulder while
I'm
you're.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Turn it your way so that way you can see it.
Right here.
And then where does it?
This existing pipe is 42 inch and it's 30 inch feet here at this end. That's right by an alley, so it's perhaps it's paved. So it comes 48. And this is the golf course is over here.
Gotcha.
So it'll come here and then we're gonna bring it down, basically discharge it parallel with this existing pond.
Okay.
And then we're gonna run a concrete channel out to the river. That's where the maintenance problem.
Yeah, so this is down that hill.
Right there, 30 comes in, this 35 into this 48. We're gonna intercept this.
That's the existing.
We're gonna intercept it right there, across Mansfield.
What's the green line?
Oh, that's some drainage areas and water lines. You know,
It's just like the natural flow or?
yes.
Oh,
Because those
okay.
are the contours. So
Okay.
that's the lower areas.
Pointing in your direction.
Yeah, it's kind of pointing in the direction.
Almost a watershed type.
Yeah, it's probably. I got
So
this.
this new pipe's only draining this?
Oh, it's good to drain this whole area. Drain all this.
See, right now it jumps into the main line that's coming down Whetstone Street and going under Mansfield.
Right now, it's here.
So we're trying to eliminate that.
Into the 48, so you got a 30
Drainage.
and a 42 draining into the 48. So the idea is to intercept the 30, take it out of the Mansfield.
Instead of going that way, it's gonna go that way.
Yeah, and it's gonna go straight through. I would, next time I'm here, I'll give you that red.
Cost estimate.
Yes, on the flip side, 200 times.
Going that way.
And cost estimates on the other side.
It goes to where it's now. Yeah, this is the one that's. So what we want to do basically with Bruce.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is disconnect the right here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a general question.
We should ask.
I like this guy. I really do. Okay, so Bruce, there's part of the bid that's, or the summary here that says contingency to 20%. Can you give us a little more detail?
Yeah, we haven't surveyed this yet. So, I mean, this is just a preliminary budget, and
Okay.
besides that just gives us proof that we gotta go under the existing sewer.
So it's to say it's a ballpark
It's-
estimate,
it's,
and it's
it's really
potentially
right.
20% higher than the
Yeah, it's-
160 that's on here?
Right. It's
Or
just-
rounding
it's a-
off the
It's a
200.
budget. We haven't done any design, there's been quick sketches, on my part.
And I guess I'm trying to also, in terms of number of homes in the area affected here, just to, justify the 200,000 expense, do you have an idea of how many homes could potentially be have their situation improved by having this new storm improvement?
Yeah, the primary beneficiaries, frankly, are going to be on the south side of railroad tracks, because that water's coming in. And then this water starts to back up in 48 under the railroad tracks.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
can't use
just
the
from
street
south.
name. And all the people on Ottawa and.
Eloise.
Yeah,
Yeah, non-convenience and
You
even
know,
over the
yeah,
main
yeah,
road.
houses.
That's what I was gonna say.
Sort of fix all that up, it's coming down that road.
That's my guess.
Okay.
That's a long way.
To chime in, then by taking that water out of that pipe, then I think maybe talking to Jeff Wagner recently, that will also help alleviate the problems that they're having across from the golf course at Dr. Strickland's lot.
Whetstone Plaza.
Whetstone Plaza. It really pertains to the building just to the east of them, because that water can't get away. And it's flooding the whole downstairs of that building that's currently for sale right now. I mean, it's devastating their business right now as we speak.
We'll clean all that out.
VFW building right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And down onto, what is it, O'Reilly's? Down to Wayne and Penn and, you know.
I was just, I know that I know someone that currently just bought a house right there on Whetstone Street, just up from the plaza, and they have said how there is a water issue even with minimal amounts of rain. That water, because of the way the houses sit and the way that it grades there, it floods the entire backyard of all those houses back there. So he said that would definitely help to alleviate the stress, because then those people could maybe pump some of that water out towards the front and get it to drain out and keep their backyards from flooding as well, so.
And that's a good point. We're just improving the storm sewer in the public right of ways.
Right.
You know, individual flooding on their properties, but it does get them an outlet to get to.
Right.
You're exactly.
Well, what happens is the south part of the tracks is already draining into the same pipe that goes along those houses.
Right.
And they're dominating that line right now. So that was why we were trying to alleviate some water out of there.
And Jeff, on the mill-and-pave, we had 600,000 in the budget. What's in the budget for this?
200.
200, okay.
I got two follow-ups.
Yeah.
Okay, the water that's on the south side of the railroad tracks, that line extends all the way up to the center entrance of the fairgrounds, and that water all is coming north at this point in time.
That is correct.
So, I mean, it's collecting all that water on the south side of the railroad tracks, and it's bringing it all north underneath the tracks, and then they're trying to funnel more water into that same line, and so you're just looking to alleviate some of that water pressure off of that main trunk line that's going to the river. So when you get down to the field down there, then you're gonna widen it out and put concrete, and you're gonna, like, be able to more than handle the additional flow that you're gonna have all at one time. Right now, it's being backed up, so it's to a point, the system itself is kind of taking care of it, even though it's ripped out all the tile in the river bottom area at this present time. It's gonna take care of that and still be able to carry it away and get it down the river without, damaging property on both sides, correct?
Right, I mean, the
Of the concrete swale.
And control the erosion and that, is that the kind of damage I think you're talking about?
Yeah. Properties on both sides are suffering the consequences.
I saw that some years ago, and I think, it's important to know this isn't solving every problem down south, down Western. I mean, but it's nibbling away at it just like we're doing with the CSO separation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we looked, I know this is finances where we're talking about this here, however, the question begs, have we already figured out the width and the depth of what this channel is gonna be? Okay.
And it's gotta be at least, it'll be a foot wider than the pipes coming into it, but we haven't gone that far along with hydraulics. And if the budget doesn't work, I guess I'll be back to talk to you about it. But, it's a budget thing.
Anybody else?
So we need some legislation for this then.
So do I have a motion?
Thank you.
Do I have a motion for legislation? It would be not to exceed 200,000 regarding the budget for the Whetstone East Mansfield Street Drain Project.
Also moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. That's all for finance, and I will recess at 7:04 p.m.
Well, let's begin public lands and buildings at 7:04 p.m. First, order of business here is the tower space contract. And, you got any more information on the?
I have not, other than what we talked the other
Yeah.
week ago Monday.
I think if,
Log director, he was gonna ask somebody or something, wasn't he? Yes?
yes, he was going to, you had received an email, is my understanding, from
Yes,
someone
I've
else
seen
that, that we're going to, trying to arrange a conversation with.
So I guess we just need to put this on hold, I guess, for now, right? Yes, Bruce?
Oh, I got a thing now that, you know, I guess, right now, I see that it says it was signed on April 14th or something to that effect, and, or April 18th.
Yep.
Now, I remember, there's only 2 council people that are even around here anymore, and that was, Madam Chairman Love and myself, and I remember when we were the ones that originally approved this. I have the understanding that, you know, when you pass a resolution that, and you're declaring it as an emergency, that it becomes law the day it's passed. And it says here, it says Resolution 207-2018, it was passed on the 19th day of February 2008. You know, I look at that as really the truly thing is because we went ahead and entered and allowed to the mayor and the public safety service director, and we voted on it as a council. And I believe that we voted on it unanimously and passed that. So I almost feel like we have to honor that that contract that is became effective 19th day of February 2008. So I mean the time is pretty much run out. You know, plus I guess what I'm getting at is, okay, we've heard the testimonials here recently, and I've gotten some phone calls too, asking me where I'm at on thinking about economic development for the city of Bucyrus and trying to promote local businesses and you know, looking out for the younger population. And I remember when we voted as a council that many years ago, we were all excited about the Crossroads Industrial Park because, you know, at that time there was no way that Time Warner was willing to extend any type of services up there. And we as a council looked at it upon it as a real boom to our local economy to be able to have all these companies be connected to the internet. And you know, I think we did the right thing at that point in time, and I think it would be in our best interest to just go ahead and fulfill our behalf of what the contract says and go ahead and renew this at this present time because of this legislation here. You know, when we pass pieces of legislation, we're passing them on their face value that becomes law that date that we passed it, mainly because it's an emergency. And so I urge everybody to, you know, do the right thing. I mean, I'm all in favor of having local stuff. I mean, let's get real. I mean, keep it local, keep everything going. We got all these businesses here that are depending upon it. I don't want to see anyone hung out to dry. Let's support them.
I have a question that I don't know the answer to, so, you know, I don't know if I need to direct it, Kurt, to you or to the administration, or if anybody can answer this. For the vertical space that Wavelink is currently using, if there were other interested parties, is there room for all of them? I mean, obviously, at some point, all of them is too many. But if you have 1, 2, 3 other companies, is there room for both?
I don't know.
those are questions that we don't have answers to yet.
I'm just
That's
asking,
not- yeah.
that's what I need
We
to
want
know.
to research it so we can, you know, we can actually make the most revenue for the city. It's not, our intention is not to, you know, prohibit somebody from having, thanks, Bruce, to prohibit somebody from having tower space and not encouraging local business, just to make sure that we're making the most use of city property and, you know, getting maximum revenue for the city taxpayers. Technology's changed. This contract was signed 10 years ago. You know, technology's changed. It's changing rapidly. What's happening now could be obsolete in a year or two. And we could be locked into another 5-year extension, which I would hate to do that. I mean, I just think until we know more about where technology's heading, what are our rights and what's responsibilities and possibilities, you know, I think you get locked into a 5-year contract
Bruce?
I have another thing. Currently, right now, there again, a number of years ago, we as council, we were excited and we passed allowing Verizon to put up a tower. That was kind of a, you know, they really couldn't put their tower anywhere but only on city property. That was kind of the way around having a tower being put in because of our zoning issues. And currently, I know we make income from that Verizon tower, and there's nothing to say that Verizon doesn't really own the tower. It's owned by American Tower Company, and there's no reason that they can't help us raise our revenue as well by selling additional space on the Verizon tower. And I'm just calling it the Verizon tower just because Verizon is there. It's really not Verizon's per se. But whatever income that would come from that would also come into the city. And I'm just wondering if there's been any discussion or anything like that, that there's any interested companies coming to that space that we actually make revenue from as well.
That's, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we're in finance, right?
Publicly, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. Yeah, good points, all good points. If we could just have a little more time to, you know, analyze this and get a presentation to council, which we're working on right now. You know, those are all good things that we need answers to, so.
Because I think when they did put in the Verizon tower, they said if they should allow someone else to come on that Verizon tower back there, then the money that we would receive monthly would increase. So maybe it's time to approach them to see. I know we've seen them out there a couple times over the last several years, but the silly people that go all the way to the top of that, and we don't really know if they've added anyone to it or not.
We can check into it too. So you might, if you would be interested, if you would want to extend the contract for a short term, you know, I think the administration would be in favor of that and amenable to that. And but a 5-year term, you know, that would not be acceptable until we know more about, you know, the possibilities.
Mr. Frank Cox.
So, you've had no interest in the towers until this last month, and the administration is actively trying to go out and seek interest on these towers at the very last minute, which, you know, it sounds like you're already in contact with one because Madam President there said you've got like an email or something. So I'd like to make a public records request of that email correspondence with this other company. And, you know, it seems like the city here is intentionally trying to bully me because...
Please have a seat. No, we're not trying to bully anyone. I'm making sure that no one's getting bullied. We have a contract here that doesn't work now because you're not providing internet, or you're not providing, you know, so this contract that we have, we need to rewrite it. You know, we don't want to knock any homegrown business out. all these things are flying around, and that's not the case at all. And I don't know, I don't know if I need to talk to the camera, but that's not the case. What you're hearing is not the case. I'm the chairman, and it is not gonna happen as long as I'm the chairman, okay? We're not gonna cut anybody out and let them hanging. If it takes 6 months or a year to get them to someone else, if we would happen to decide to go with someone else because of financial reasons, then that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it right. But, this whole, Kurt, I appreciate what you're doing, but sometimes when it just seems like you make it worse by saying things, So let us go through the process. We're gonna get some bids. We're gonna see if anyone has any interest. We don't even know if anyone has any interest. And no one has asked, no one's tried to bully you or anything.
Okay, I want to bring up something in reference to the sell-off of the parking lot next door to City Hall to Hardee's, okay? That happened several years ago, back in 2011. It was advertised in the newspaper as in lot 783. And on the October 18th, 2011 minutes, Mr. O'Rourke brought up, and I'll read a quote here. O'Rourke explained that he did have a problem with the proposed sale of in-lot 783 since there was no other description identifying the location of the area. So it was put into legal notice, and, obviously because they wanted it to get sold to Hardee's and didn't want anybody else to see that it was advertised. So it was very vaguely defined. So why is the administration now, maybe it could have went for more money if it would, if more people knew about it. Why is the administration now intentionally trying to get other interest at the very last minute when there's been no interest for 10 years? And if the city's interest is to get revenue for city property, I have a picture here from 2015 of the water department on Marion Road. Henderson trucks, been parked there for 2.5 years, no income for the city. They've been using this city property. Totally free. They don't even pay city taxes because they're not a business in the city limits. I'm a business in the city limits. So if Henderson gets to use that parking lot for 2.5 years for free, I want to use something for free too.
Okay, let's talk about the towers, because that's all something else, and I don't know. But if anyone has anything to say on the towers, let's move forward with that. Bruce?
So do we have to go out and get bids? Don't we legally have to make a motion to go ahead and seek bids to allow this action to be legal?
I think what we're doing is we're waiting to see if there's any interest in this.
Right.
We've contacted, administration has contacted,
Yeah, we'll be setting some meetings up soon.
and so, we're just trying to work it through the process. I don't think we're trying to, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen anything misleading or wrong.
I just think it's worth pointing out, though, in this case, the letter dated December 21st, 2016, from the mayor to Kurt. It does say both parties recognize that in 2017, proposals and solicitations regarding the future of all city-owned tower space will be requested. So we're in 2018 here, and we're talking about process that was indicated back in 16, that should have happened in 17. So I can definitely understand, as a business owner, that, he's got assets on these towers. He has to have them there to be able to continue his business. And, that's there in writing. That's not my words. That's just me pointing out what was in the correspondence. The other question I had relating to this was, just to gain a better understanding of this page from Joyce regarding the payments Wavelink made to the city, and what were those dollar amounts for?
It's in the contract.
Okay.
If you read it's a
I guess I
dollar
was trying to
per
figure
customer
out.
per month.
Okay, that's,
And it's
okay,
specifically-
so it's a, that's what that relates to, the dollar.
Yes, that's what that relates to. So you can see that, I mean, there's been some fluctuation of customers, obviously.
Yes, Bruce?
So what, being that we brought up the dollar amounts that we received, what were the services that we were receiving and where were we receiving the services at? And what were we paying for the services? I mean, well, that's what I mean. I mean, what was the, where were the locations that we were receiving the service? And were we paying for it?
What services were we, at one point, we were getting email and internet service.
I mean, and what locations was what I was getting at.
The,
So, I mean, we were getting.
in the beginning, he had, you know, he did the email and internet service for the city.
Right.
And now we've switched to Spectrum, Time Warner Spectrum. And so that's not part of this contract now.
Well, wasn't there like an amendment to this contract or something that,
It was just,
that
Just
stated
a letter
that you would
that
provide,
said-
you would provide free internet service to the city parks or?
yeah, that letter's in here too.
And I believe there is more than just equipment at the water towers. We've been referring to the water towers, but I believe this was an agreement between the city and Mr. Fankhauser at some point along the line. You have equipment back here on the police antenna. You have some over at the fire department on their antenna, and I think out at the street garage.
That's true.
Okay. So I mean, those were
Okay.
changes that were oral changes, I think, that were made because things change, and those took place. Not according to how it should have happened. There should have been a letter each time or an amendment to the contract added to it, but I don't think we have any such letters over the last 10 years, at least that I could find.
Well, there's a provision in the original contract that says if there's a connection at a city office, there's a repeater system allowable to be at that location as well, which incorporated like the water or city garage tower, because they have a connection in there for their office, so provision in there allows a repeater on the tower.
Yeah.
Bruce?
That's the only way that we could actually get the signal to that spot, because then you have to have, I mean, that's almost like a have-to type of thing. You're telling me.
The city garage, there's no Time Warner coax south of the railroad tracks on that street.
I
So,
feel.
we ran into a problem with Hordes when they built that new facility there. They wanted Time Warner internet, but it couldn't even be taken out there because it couldn't go south of the tracks. It's, railroad permits take a long time to get, and so I ended up hooking internet up for that facility.
Anything else?
The only thing I'd like to say real quick, Chairman, I completely agree with what Bruce says, especially when it comes to, economic development. I mean, I support local business, small business, I completely agree with that, but I also believe in doing the process is the right way to do, and if this is the right way to do the process, then this is what we should do. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if nobody shows any interest, then I guess he gets the contract back again, and I mean.
Well, if
technically-
that's the case, we need to sign another 10-year contract.
Right.
Then you're good for 10 years, If we do it this way, if we extend it a year or whatever, let's just do it right, then you know what's gonna happen the next 10 years, 5 years or whatever we decide. I just, I can give my personal guarantee that we're not gonna just throw everybody out.
I'm with you on that.
And I think everyone probably, hopefully will back me up.
Sounds good.
So, okay, so I guess,
Balls in your court, boys.
We're on it.
all right. Let's move on to the Pines Reservoir, one of my favorite topics. Yeah, I think that's in
Oh, we have a letter, we have a letter in here that,
yeah, we've got a letter from the Park District.
yeah, but more, I think we gotta start with one from the Ohio EPA, it'd be a good place to start.
Oh, yeah, I glanced at that, but I thought that was.
Actually, the part that gets home the most is at the top of the second page on that letter. If you wanna read that.
That's why I didn't read far enough. Top of the second, submit plans for disconnecting Neff and Pines reservoirs from the new raw water line to the treatment plant to Ohio EPA by May 31st, 2018 for approval. Wasn't that part of the plan anyhow, when we put the new water plant in, to disconnect that?
Well, they've never brought it up before, but for the last 20 years or, when was it all built, 1970?
70-something.
Yeah, they've never said nothing about unhooking it from the raw water line until now. So, we've already got a letter into them and they're fine as long as we get our plan to them by May 31st, to how we're actually going to disconnect it. Those valves have not been opened, probably for 30 years, so I hate to touch it. So we've got to work on putting a plan together to disconnect that line from the raw water line right now, or into the line feeding the water line into the city.
But it's not connected now, it's, we got the spigot off, right?
Well, we do, but they want it manually disconnected.
Yeah, they want it.
A gap in the
Yeah,
pipe.
so we've got to do some research about where it actually enters the line, where the line runs, so we can maybe block it off at the reservoir and then dig it up and block it off. Yeah, well, I don't want to open it, but we'll get that done.
Okay, so we need to do that, which is probably long overdue. To be done, yeah. So we have that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I know in the past that we've talked about that reservoir, and we've talked about keeping it in case we would ever need the water, which we can never use that water anyway. But is there come a point in time that we look at putting the pines up for sale? And I know we talked about it before, but, you know, all we have to do is keep going in and fixing the dam and pick furniture out of the pond and TVs and tires and, you know, maybe somebody could put it to a better use, I don't know. But I'm just asking.
Well, I mean, I guess, what I hear from people is that, you know, at least some, the ones that are interested in it, that they want to use it for fishing and things like that, so.
Well, I guess as I'm reading this letter from Bill Fisher, and I know we had talked about that before, and I did talk to Josh Dyer out there. Their biggest thing is they don't want to take it over with a lot of expense coming to fix the dam, which if it dries up enough during the summer, we can go in and fix the concrete and the rebar and that kind of thing very minimally. And then they would probably just take it over, if that's something you guys are interested in.
No, I mean, I just would like to see, my personal opinion, and I guess there's 7 of us here that really have to decide that, but my personal opinion is to keep it as so that the public can use it, you know. I mean, I know Mr.
Murphy?
Murphy was interested, and I just felt that it would be just used for certain people.
I know when I talked to Josh Dyer, they had just got in a load of canoes and kayaks. So he was all excited, like, oh, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
But quite a
Take them over here.
That was, thank you. That was along the lines of what I was gonna say. I mean, I've heard from many different people that they have a big interest in wanting to make it something that they can have excursions for younger kids at, do hiking, canoeing, just teaching the kids about nature and walking the trails and all that. I mean, I know that's something that sounds really great. Is there a way that we could maybe have a presentation from them to tell us what their plans would be if they were able to do that, how they would coordinate it and make it work?
It says Josh will speak on behalf of CPD at future meetings regarding fines, so hopefully he will.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should also bring Mr. Murphy back.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Also, if you do that, I think you need to send a letter to all the adjoining property owners. Especially, I know several of them that live right on the, it would be the northeast corner. And I don't think they really would like it to be sold as a private use for.
No,
I mean, I think that we ought to invite all the other adjoining landowners to see, especially those who have houses there.
Right.
You know, if we have that, we should make sure they get invited so they can voice their concerns too.
Right. And I don't think we could sell it. I mean, it's gotta be put up for bid.
Yeah, true. It would have to go up as a public bid. We can't.
You just throw a price on it and say,
I kind of looked at this and I thought, what is the city's kind of guideline as to what type of property they will or won't sell? And I don't know if a guideline or best practices exists in this case, but to me, the Pines Reservoir, to me, kind of fits into the category of a property that as a city you wouldn't sell because it's an open space kind of designed for public use, and rather than something to be divided up for private consumption. And if we're going to be sold off, that would have to be accessible to everyone to compete for purchase of that property.
Right, it would have to go
So,
for public
yeah,
bid.
but
Right.
personally, I think that we've got the park district interested, and I think I'd probably table any idea of selling it, and get the park district involved, and let's see where we can go with this, because it sounds like a great idea to me to have the parks take over, and.
Well, that's where it started. We reached out to them and they're like, well, we don't really want it if we gotta put $100,000 in it or whatever.
Right, and I don't know what level of expense this is creating on an annual basis for the city, but also, maybe we can get some volunteers to help out if there's some cleanup projects and things like that, rather than, having city workers and, employees putting in all the time on preserving that area.
We did have, what was the name of that group that was trying to help clean that up? Do you remember?
I don't.
They came in here and said they would go out there and clean up the trash.
I think that's just a couple fishermen.
That's it, it was-
Well, no, seriously, they did.
They were. Guys that fished. I went out and someone had brought a trash can from
Okay, it
home.
may have been the positive seekers.
It could have been.
That's what Todd
I have to.
sort of remembered.
Yeah, I remember somebody saying they would go out and.
Going to the mayor here.
Well, for the new members of council, this came up last year, in June, actually, and some of the problem was, the reason we brought this up is because the dam was in, bad shape. And, last year, I think it was a year ago or so, a Buckeye Lake Dam cost millions of dollars. Now, it's much, much bigger scale, but, you could still see it would be an expense to the city, which was, the reservoir gets little use, we would never use the water again, so we were entertaining ideas, to not have this cost to us. And so we were reaching out to people, and then we talked to the Parks District, and Pat Murphy came in and had some good plans for it too, and it was tabled, then. I think a couple of councilmen thought, we would be using that water against some day, and we, it's never gonna happen, but, so, this thing with the EPA, it's come and told us what we have to do, kind of brings it up to the forefront again. What we're trying to, we would love to see that, it's a beautiful area. We would love to see it get more use, and possibly under the auspices of the county park district, that might be a good, good reason, but I think, like Ms. Love said, we need to have Mr. Murphy back in too, and then decide what you want to do with it. We're just trying to avoid an expense that we don't have the money for, a fix-up expense.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes, go right ahead.
Has it ever been explained why the water cannot be used out of that reservoir anymore? I don't think I've ever heard. What is the condition that it cannot be used? Can it not be cleaned up enough anymore to be used, or what?
Well, what I understand the difference to be, one is just groundwater, and our reservoirs that we pump out of are above the ground. Even though we pump out of the Sandusky River, I get it, but our plant is not set up to do that kind of water straight into our plant.
How does that differ then from the reservoir that is along 98?
That's enough.
And that's the NEP, and that needs to be disconnected also. We don't use that anymore. We only use the Off-White and O'Reilly, and they're above ground. So it's a different source of water, so there's different ways you have to take care of it to use, to chemically apply and to use it. So.
But if need be, it could be done.
No, we will never need be. We have a billion,
Don't ever say never. Don't ever say never.
But I think the pines is only like 4 feet deep out in the middle, and I think the net is only about 6 feet deep in the middle. So if we run into a drought, those are going to dry up way before our outweight will.
Yeah, there's
$1 billion of water
before we need it.
So.
yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to make a point and share an opinion. I like everything we're hearing. I know we're gonna look more into the future in depth at it, but I really like to see us, consider the possibility of a lease like we do with the ground that the hospital sits on, where they can, the park district might be interested in taking over a lot of the responsibilities of the things that we're worried about, that are gonna cost us, the dam and things like that. So I just wanted to go on the record as sharing that.
Okay, appreciate it.
One.
Oh, one more.
How much damage is that dam or decay? Is it, how much do you think is needed to keep that? If we go to the park district and fix that, did they say what was wrong and actually what is needed? I know it's 40 years old or
Well, they've been in and repaired it before they actually put a drive-in to get to it. I think it was even down off the Stetcher or the neighbors to the east. They actually laid stone to get down into it to work on it. But what's showing right now is just a little part of the dam on the one side where they're starting to show rebar. So we got to go in and fill that in, patch it or whatever. I don't think it'll cost that much per se, but if we keep letting it go, it's going to get worse. But it never got dry enough last year for the dam or for the pines to go down, so it's dry where we need to fix this. So hopefully this year, if it dries up enough, we can go in and fix it.
Would you not be able to lower the water to do it? If we could get it dry enough season?
Well, it all depends what you want to take back there equipment-wise, because there's no room.
Like I said,
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's just where the dam's at, there's no drive. So you're gonna create your own to get back there. So it's not an easy fix.
The other thing too, Mr. Chairman, the county parks district is funded by property taxes. And I don't know what the budget's like, I'm sure they're not flush with money. But they have an advantage over us, and we do not have designated funds for the park. And we're trying to shake out some funds from our general fund to approve Harmon and Lyons and All Miller and have continual improvements of those parks. Those would be our priorities. So if we could, the option of the county park district taking over and then taking the cost of repairs, or maybe we share the cost of repairs, that's pretty attractive, because I know they would, what they've done at Lone Volk and Sears Wood, and we have some beautiful county parks. At the same time, Mr. Murphy, had some very good ideas too, so you have to, hear him out again too, so.
Okay, any more discussion on this? We're just been kind of schooled on that. Okay, next is water distribution garage.
Yes, if I could speak to that, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. If you look back to the notes from June 8th, our intention is to consolidate our facilities on the old ODOT facility on Irving, as we brought up before. And it obviously needs some work, but we've been in contact with ODOT, and they have the lease back in their hands. And we've approved the initial lease. And we expect a final copy of that to be brought before council here within a month or so. And at the same, what we need to do is we want to make it revenue neutral at no cost to the city. So as we've discussed, we want to be able to put up our buildings for sale. The water distribution building and street garage, we've had appraisals on both of those. And we would do this in phases. So we would do one first and then, take everybody out there from that department, get everything fixed up, how we want to get it fixed up, and then possibly put the other one for sale. And so just let you know the progress on that. We should be having some more news here pretty quickly.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't have to be done overnight. We don't have to.
Okay. Keep you informed. No emergency, we just want to keep you informed where we are on that.
I think it's a good opportunity to consolidate everything.
Yeah, it'll work out good for our city crews and everybody will be under one roof, and also, rehabilitate a, potential eyesore for the north end too.
Okay,
So, Mr.
yes.
In talking with ODOT, they've had other facilities, obviously, they tried to sell and haven't had any luck. And they rent out part of it sometimes, and it does become a property that does not look very good in the end. And so I think it's a good avenue for us to clean it up.
The price is right, so.
Yeah.
Price is pretty good.
Is there a length of time that they've offered on the lease?
Forever. $1.
Yeah.
We just can't never sell it.
Bruce?
Even though it's $1, is there any negotiations on going 50-50 with them or anything like that
You're like
on cleaning up?
Yeah.
As you're coming in off of Irving Street, it's like Dodgems up in that parking lot. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some craters up there that could probably swallow a dump truck. I mean,
They're amenable to that, right? Yeah, they're gonna get in there, get stuff out and help get it cleaned up too. And there's some.
they're
There's plenty of work that needs to be done on it. So we've had those discussions with them.
Okay.
Have you had an estimate on what it would possibly cost us to
We have it.
rehab it?
We have some, but not all of it yet.
Okay.
So,
So you present more of that information to us?
yep.
Before we sign a contract, we will have a plan put together and paper for you.
All right, last call.
No, good. Good.
So,
7:44?
7:44, so we call it 7:44, we call this meeting over. Any more public participation? No, okay, and I would ask for a
So
motion
moved.
to, all in favor?
Who was the second? Okay. 7:45? Thank you.
I'd like to make a statement,
Mark?
Madam Chairman, Madam President. I'd like to make a statement on anything about what transpired at the Park District at all, even though it's part of old business, that I didn't get it, put out at the last meeting, but I just wanted to let everybody know that, Park District, they were all excited and all happy, and we went ahead and were shown, well, we were given the information about a recent find out on Broken Sword Creek, and Broken Sword Creek more or less starts out by Sulphur Springs. And years ago, there was a mastodon bone found out there in that creek. And I know recently they just had something, a program out to the Park District, but for everybody that didn't hear about it, there was a local man that was just doing a trap line out there, and he has trap lines out there on the Broken Sword Creek. And he just recently seen a bone sticking out of the ground, and pulled it out, pulled the bone out, and got with Josh Dyer, and they started looking at the bone and the dimensions of it, and they ruled out a cow bone, and then they ruled out a horse bone, and they thought the next order of business was that they should go down to Columbus and talk to some experts down there. I think Ohio State University might have been one. And so anyway, they actually did verify that it was a mastodon bone. And so they're really excited about that. And then part of the agreement with the team that's in Columbus, they allowed the Crawford Park District to bring a mastodon tooth back. And my goodness, I mean, it looks just like a human tooth, but I mean, it is, it's, I just can't even hardly imagine it, but it looks just like a tooth that's in the back of your mouth. I mean, you do your grinding on, and the tooth is about, we'll say maybe 4 to 5 inches wide, and probably 6 to 8 inches long, and it actually has the root on it yet. And it's just absolutely amazing. And so it's on display, and if you guys get a chance, I urge you to go to Crawford Park District. They have so many wonderful things going on every day of the week out there, and if you can get out there and see it, it's a thrill. So I just wanted to bring it all to everybody's attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Bruce. That's awesome.
Actual two.
It's already.